Thank you. And Convener, just before I ask my questions, can I just put on the public record that I'm obviously very heavily involved in providing case notes to one of the inquiries, non-pecuniary obviously, which may be used in evidence as that inquiry progresses. Professor Cameron, can I just ask, when it comes to the decision about whether it is a judge-led inquiry or not, to what extent is the main deciding issue about compelling witnesses to appear? Because obviously that has been a concern for many of the victims who've been involved, that they are very keen indeed, rightly so in my opinion, to see specific witnesses compelled to give evidence.
I think that's a feature of it. I think that does not mean that it needs to be a judge who's chairing it. I think there needs to be certainly legal involvement in that process. But I think the power to compel witnesses and to compel documents in many inquiries is an important one, so that people feel that there's no escaping from.
And so do you think the reason for the demand for a judge-led public inquiry tends to be because people believe that that person will have the legal authority and legal standing to be able to get more out of the evidence? Do you think that's...
I think they may do. I think when they're calling for that, they're thinking that this will be like a court. It should be like a court. Whereas perhaps if we have a more inquisitorial model, it can be different kind of environment.
And just in relation to the comment you made in answer to Mr Mason, where you implied that the demand for public inquiries is growing, do you think that one of the reasons for that increase is because public services in the UK, not just in Scotland, are not delivering satisfactory answers when something goes wrong?
I think it's difficult to know why there is that growing demand. It's almost become the automatic response to an issue is we need an inquiry, we need a public inquiry, and then often that becomes we need a judge-led inquiry without saying, yes, we need to find out what went wrong, but is there another way that we've got for doing that with it? And often because these things are happening quite a long time after the event, then it comes back and it takes a long time to argue that corner. I think, yes, public authorities need to be open about issues that they've got wrong and be able to say that.
Yeah, my own personal view is a personal view, not just because of the inquiry with which I've been involved, but reading extensively about other ones, is that I have a feeling that victims do not feel that there is sufficient accountability within the public authorities. In other words, the reason why we've got a demand for public inquiries is because people are dissatisfied with the lack of accountability in their eyes of different public bodies. And that's a major issue. If that's correct, that is a major issue. And so I wonder, in terms of trying to ensure that there is better accountability, do you think that there should be more government input when it comes to ensuring that whistleblowing is effectively responded to, or should there be other structures within government that can hold some of the bodies to account?
I think it is important to hold bodies to account. And absolutely, I think for people who have been victims or survivors, if it's that type of inquiry, they need to feel that people, if they are still kind of in post, are held to account for the actions that they took. And I think that then is not for the inquiry itself, it's for the inquiry in terms of its report and what it says has gone wrong. It's then for those institutions to decide how they're going to deal with that. And that would be part, I think, of the follow-through.
Yeah, because I really do think this is quite a serious issue at the moment, and it's one of the reasons why we have an increasing demand for specific public inquiries. And actually, I think it's a reason why they are taking longer, because the toing and froing to try to get to the information that is required takes an awful long time, and the costs multiply. Yes. And it's partly the hidden costs as well.
Yes.
That takes such a long time. You're talking about redaction, that's vitally important in terms of data confidentiality, etc. But I think there is a real issue about the amount of time that it does take when, well, I think there's a frustration about that time, because some of the answers should have been provided before by some of the agencies who have been accused of lack of accountability and taking responsibility. I think that's a major issue, and I just wonder if you have any thoughts as to what we can do to try to improve that.
I think, looking back in my career as a director of social work, my approach was always, if something had gone wrong, we'll deal with it straight away. Sometimes colleagues in other places thought, well, we'll wait until there's an inquiry. My view was that it was better that we had dealt with it kind of internally, taking whatever action was necessary, so that if it came to an inquiry, we were in a position to say, that's been addressed, here's what we did, we found it. So I think there is that bit of process about not letting things sit, but actually being seen to deal with them, and to deal with them openly.
And my last question, in general terms, I don't mean this about any specific inquiry, but do you think there has been an increasing temptation for government, any government, not any particular political colour, to accept a public inquiry because it gets them out of the responsibility of taking decisions that perhaps they should have been?
I think that is certainly the suspicion of many people, is it feels like, is an inquiry a way of, as I think you, Chairman, said, kicking it into the long grass. Because once an inquiry has been announced, it allows, whether it be in central or local government or wherever, people to say, I can't say anything about this because it's the subject of an inquiry. But then if that inquiry goes on for years, then it kind of moves it away altogether. So it's that bit about how do you kind of keep to the moment.
Thank you very much.